My name is Vanessa Hale, and 5 years ago, my mother chose my nephew over my daughter while my little girl was bleeding in the snow. Not emotionally bleeding, not kids being kids. I mean real blood, on white snow outside my parents' cabin in northern Montana while Christmas music played inside like nothing happened. My daughter was 9 years old, and my mother locked the door. I still remember the sound Lily made when I found her. Not crying, not screaming, just this tiny shaking sound in her throat, like her body had already given up trying to ask adults for help. What happened that night destroyed my family forever. But the truth? The truth is my family was rotten long before the snowstorm came. We just hid it better during the holidays. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories. If you've ever been the black sheep in your family, the one expected to stay quiet while everyone else gets protected, this story is going to hit hard. And trust me, you're going to want to stay till the end because the way this all came crashing down, nobody saw it coming. Not even my mother. I grew up in Helena, Montana. Small town, big church, bigger gossip. My father, Walter Hale, believed emotions were weakness and appearances were everything. My older sister Candace learned that early. She smiled on command, married young, had babies fast, hosted church bake sales, and posted matching family photos every fall like she was auditioning for some Hallmark movie. Me? I joined the Coast Guard at 19 and left the second I could. That alone made my father treat me like a traitor. "You think you're too good for this family," he told me the day I left. No, I just knew staying would suffocate me. I met my husband Adrian 3 years later in Seattle. He worked construction, big shoulders, soft heart, type of guy who stopped his truck to help strangers fix flat tires. We had our daughter Ellie when I was 28, and for the first time in my life, I understood what safe love felt like. No conditions, no guilt, no scorekeeping, just love. My parents barely visited after Ellie was born, but Candace and her son Mason, oh, they were royalty back home. Mason could punch a hole through drywall, and somehow it became boys being boys. Ellie spilled juice once during Thanksgiving, and my father stared at her like she'd committed a felony. That was the difference. Candace's kid was spirited. Mine was too sensitive. I noticed it early. Kids notice it too. Ellie started asking questions around age 7. Why does Grandpa hug Mason first? Why does Grandma buy him bigger presents? Why do they laugh when he's mean? That last one sat in my chest like a brick. Because she was right. Mason was mean. Not loud mean, worse. Quiet mean, the kind of kid who smiled while hurting people. One summer during a family barbecue, I watched him pull wings off a moth behind the garage while humming to himself. He was 11. When I told Candace maybe he needed counseling, she laughed in my face. "Boys are rough, Vanessa, relax." But Ellie was scared of him, and deep down, I think I was too. Still, every Christmas, my mother begged us to come home. Families belong together for the holidays. That was her favorite sentence. Didn't matter how toxic things got. Didn't matter who cried. As long as the Christmas card photo looked good, she called it family. In December of 2020, Adrian got stuck working an emergency bridge repair in Oregon. I almost skipped Christmas completely. I should have. God, I should have. But Ellie begged me to go. Maybe this year will be better. That sentence still wrecks me, because kids always believe adults can change, even when adults never do. We drove 8 hours through snow to reach my parents' cabin outside Flathead Lake. Candace and Mason were already there. The second we walked in, Mason smirked at Ellie and whispered, "Crybaby's back." My mother heard him. She laughed. Actually laughed. "Oh, hush, Mason." That was it. no correction, no apology, just that soft little laugh families use when they've already decided whose feelings matter less. Dinner that first night felt like walking through a minefield. My father kept grilling me about work. So when are you finally settling down somewhere? I am settled. You still moving around like some drifter? I've lived in Seattle for 6 years, Dad. Funny, because Ellie had straight A's, dance lessons, and 2 parents who adored her. Meanwhile, Candace's ex-husband was on his 3rd DUI, but nobody mentioned that. In my family, truth depended on who was speaking. That night, Ellie climbed into bed beside me in the guest room. I don't want to stay long. Why, baby? Mason watches me weird. I brushed hair from her face. He bother you today? He kept saying I ruin everything. My stomach tightened. What exactly did he say? She hesitated, then whispered, Grandpa wishes I was never born. I went cold, immediately cold. Not because I doubted it, because I knew exactly where he heard it. The next morning, snow started falling hard, big Montana flakes, thick and heavy, the kind that makes the whole world quiet. My father loved weather like that, made him feel rugged or something. He decided everybody should go outside and cut wood for the fire pit. Ellie hated the cold. Mason loved making fun of her for it. He kept throwing snowballs at her hood while my father laughed from the porch. Gotta toughen her up! One snowball hit her directly in the face. Hard. She stumbled backward, crying. I snapped immediately. Mason, knock it off! Candace rolled her eyes. Oh my God, Vanessa, they're playing. No, he's bullying her. My father stepped down from the porch. Gotta become drama with you. Ellie wiped tears quietly. That's what broke me most. She wasn't loud about pain anymore. She'd already learned loud pain annoyed people. That afternoon, I almost packed us up and left. Almost. But my mother cornered me in the kitchen. Please don't ruin Christmas. There it was again. Not please stay. Not let's fix this. Just don't ruin the performance. I stayed one more night. Biggest mistake of my life. Christmas Eve started calm. Too calm. The kind of calm horror movies use before everything goes bad. Candace was drinking wine by noon. My father was already irritated because the football game signal kept cutting out. And Mason had that look in his eye again. That smug, restless look like he was waiting to hurt somebody. Around 7 that evening, my mother realized her diamond bracelet was missing. Family heirloom. Expensive. Immediate panic. Everybody started searching the cabin. Drawers opening, cushions flipping, voices rising. Then Mason spoke. I saw Ellie upstairs earlier. Silence. Just instant silence. My daughter froze beside the fireplace. Candace crossed her arms. There it is. I looked at Ellie. Did you touch Grandma's bracelet? No! Immediate answer. Terrified. I didn't. But my father was already marching upstairs. He came down 5 minutes later holding the bracelet, inside Ellie's backpack. I swear to God, the room changed temperature. Ellie looked confused before she looked scared. That detail matters, because guilty kids panic first. Innocent kids get confused. I didn't put it there, she whispered. Candace scoffed. Mason literally saw you. Ellie looked at me desperately. Mommy, I swear. My father slammed the bracelet onto the table. You steal from this family under my roof? She didn't steal anything. But even as I said it, I realized nobody planned to listen. Not one person. My mother wouldn't even look at Ellie. That hurt worse than my father yelling, because silence from women like my mother, that's agreement. Mason stood near the hallway, pretending to look nervous, but I caught it, for half a second, that tiny little smile, that tiny sick smile, and suddenly, I knew. He planted it. I stepped toward him. Mason, did you put that bracelet in her bag? Candace exploded instantly. How dare you accuse my son? Because he's lying. Ellie started crying harder. I didn't do it, Mommy, I didn't. My father pointed toward the front door. I'm sick of this girl bringing chaos into my house. She's 9. She's a thief. Then Ellie said something so quiet I almost missed it. Mason told me if I cried, nobody would believe me. The room went dead silent. Like she recognized the truth, but then her pride kicked in. Manipulative, just like her mother. That did it. I grabbed Ellie's coat. We're leaving. But outside, the storm had become brutal. Wind screaming, snow sideways, roads disappearing. My father blocked the doorway. You drive tonight, that's your choice. But that girl admits what she did first. She admitted nothing. Then she can stand outside and think about it. I laughed because surely he didn't mean that. Then he opened the front door. Cold air blasted through the cabin. And my mother didn't stop him. Ellie clung to my arm, terrified. My father stared directly at her. Maybe the cold will teach you honesty. Then he grabbed her little suitcase and threw it into the snow. For a second, nobody moved. The wind screamed through the open doorway while snow whipped across the wooden floorboards. And my daughter, my 9-year-old little girl, started shaking so hard I could feel it through her coat sleeve. I stepped in front of her immediately. We are leaving. But my father squared his shoulders like some old sheriff in a Western movie. You walk out tonight, don't come back. Funny thing about toxic parents. They really believe love is something they can turn on and off like a porch light. I looked him dead in the eye. You think this is punishment? He didn't answer. Because men like my father never explain cruelty. They just expect obedience. Candace grabbed Mason's shoulder dramatically. This whole trip has been chaos because of them. Them. Like my daughter and I were some infection that entered the cabin. Ellie's fingers dug into my hand. Mommy? That tiny voice snapped me out of shock. I bent down fast. Baby, go get your boots. She ran upstairs, trembling. I turned toward my mother one last time. You're really gonna let him do this? Her eyes filled with tears instantly, but she still didn't move. That's the thing people don't understand about weak parents. Sometimes the quieter one does more damage than the loud one, because they watch and allow it. Walter's upset, she whispered. I actually laughed. Not happy laughter, the kind people make when their heart finally cracks. Upset? I said. He's terrorizing a child. My father slammed his hand against the wall. Watch your damn mouth. No, you watch yours. For the first time in my entire life, I wasn't scared of him. Not even a little. Because once you become a parent, something changes. Your fear gets replaced by protection. And protection is a dangerous thing when pushed too far. Ellie came back downstairs in boots and mittens, with tears streaked down her face. She looked so small standing there, so unbelievably small. My mother finally stepped forward. Maybe Ellie should apologize and— No. I cut her off instantly. She will not apologize for something she didn't do. Then Mason spoke from behind Candace. I saw her take it. And there it was again. That smug little edge in his voice. My daughter looked at him in disbelief. Why are you lying? He shrugged. I'm not. But he wouldn't look directly at her when he said it. That mattered too. Liars hate eye contact when truth is standing right in front of them. I grabbed our bags. My father stepped aside just enough for the door to open wider. Go ahead, he said coldly. Run away like you always do. I almost answered. Almost screamed 20 years of buried pain directly into his face. But Ellie came first. Always Ellie first. So we walked out into the storm. The cold hit like knives, real Montana winter cold, the kind that steals breath instantly. Snow was already halfway up the tires of my SUV. I shoved bags into the back while Ellie climbed inside, shaking. My hands were numb within seconds. Then the engine wouldn't start. One turn, nothing. Second turn, dead clicking sound. My stomach dropped. No, no, no. Not tonight. Not here. I tried again. Nothing. The cabin door opened behind us. Warm yellow light spilled across the snow. My father stood there watching. Watching. Not helping. Just watching. I rolled down the window. The battery's dead. Silence. Then he shrugged. Guess you should have thought harder before disrespecting this family. I stared at him. Actually stared. Because sometimes evil doesn't look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like your own father standing warm in a doorway while his granddaughter freezes. Ellie curled into herself in the passenger seat. Mummy, I'm cold. That snapped me into motion. I grabbed the emergency blanket from the trunk and wrapped it around her. Then I called roadside assistance. 2-hour wait minimum because of the storm. 2 hours. In that weather. I knew immediately that wouldn't work. The temperature was dropping fast. Roads were icing over, and our heater wasn't running. I made a decision right there. We'd walk to the gas station 3 miles down the highway. It was dangerous, but staying still was worse. I bundled Ellie in every extra layer we had, sweatshirt over pajamas, my scarf around her face, gloves bigger for her hands. Then we started walking. Snow hit sideways so hard it stung skin. The road was nearly invisible, and the whole time, the cabin lights stayed glowing behind us. Nobody came after us. Not my mother, not my father. Nobody. About 20 minutes in, Ellie started slowing down. I'm tired. I know, baby, just a little further. I can't feel my fingers. Fear hit me so hard, my chest hurt. I rubbed her hands while we walked. Talk to me, okay? Keep talking. That's what survival training teaches you. Keep people awake. Keep them focused. She tried. God, she tried. But her little voice kept getting weaker. Then we heard it. Snowmobile engine. A bright light cut through the storm behind us. At first, I panicked. Then the driver shouted, "You folks okay?" A man in orange winter gear pulled up beside us. Older guy, maybe late 50s, gray beard covered in snow. I almost cried from relief. Our car died, I yelled over the wind. She's freezing. He looked at Ellie one time and immediately killed the engine. Jesus Christ! He stripped off an insulated outer jacket and wrapped it around her without hesitation. Get on behind me, both of you. I hesitated for maybe half a second. Then survival instinct took over. We climbed on. That man drove us through the storm to a small ranger station near the highway. Warm lights, coffee smell, heaters blasting. I will never forget that feeling when warmth hit Ellie's skin. Never. A female park ranger rushed over instantly. Oh, honey! Ellie's lips had started turning pale blue. The ranger looked at me sharply. How long was she outside? I answered honestly. Too long. They got blankets around her fast, hot chocolate, space heater. And then the questions started. Where were you staying? My parents' cabin. Why were you walking in this storm? I paused, because saying the truth out loud made it real. My father threw us out. The room went silent. The old man who rescued us muttered something under his breath. The ranger stared at me for a long second. Then she picked up the phone. I'm calling EMS. It's okay, I started. No, ma'am, she said firmly. A child with possible hypothermia is not okay. Ellie leaned against me, trembling. I didn't steal it, Mommy. My throat closed instantly. I know. I really didn't. I know, baby. She started crying then, not loud, those tiny, exhausted kid sobs that sound older than children should sound. The quiet ranger walked away to give us privacy, but I saw her wiping her eyes. That's the thing about strangers. Sometimes strangers show more humanity in 10 minutes than family shows in 10 years. The ambulance arrived fast. Inside, the paramedic checked Ellie's temperature twice. Core temps low. They put heated packs under her arms and around her neck. One paramedic looked at me carefully. Ma'am, how exactly did a child end up walking 3 miles in a blizzard? I didn't protect my parents anymore. Not after that night. Not after watching my father stand in warmth while Ellie froze. So I told the truth, every ugly piece of it, and the paramedic's face changed immediately. By the time we reached Kalispell Regional Hospital, Child Protective Services had already been notified. I sat beside Ellie's hospital bed while snow battered the windows outside. Machines beeped softly around us. Her cheek slowly regained color. A nurse handed me coffee around midnight. You did good getting her out. I stared into the cup. Did I? Because mothers carry guilt differently. Even when something isn't your fault, you still replay every decision, wondering where you failed. I should have left sooner, should have trusted my instincts sooner, should have protected her sooner. Ellie finally fell asleep around 1 in the morning. That's when my phone exploded with calls. Mom, Dad, Candace, over and over. I ignored every single one. Then a text came from my mother. Please call us. Your father didn't mean it this way. Like this, as if there was some acceptable version of throwing a child into a blizzard. I blocked her number. At 2:13 a.m., there was a knock on the hospital room door. Police officer, state trooper, and a Child Protective Services investigator. The investigator introduced herself quietly. Miss Hale, I need to ask some questions. I nodded, because deep down, I already knew something massive had started moving, and there was no stopping it now. The first supervised visit happened on a Saturday morning in April. Cold air, gray sky, one of those quiet Tennessee mornings where everything feels still before a storm, even when the weather forecast says sunshine. The visitation center sat between a dentist office and a tax service building in a tired little strip mall outside Clarksville. Beige walls, fluorescent lights. a faded mural of cartoon animals peeling near the playroom door. I parked the car and looked in the rearview mirror. Lily sat in the back seat, twisting the sleeve of her hoodie around her fingers. "You okay, baby?" She nodded too fast. That meant no. I turned around in my seat. "You don't have to do anything today you don't want to do. You hear me?" Her little voice came out quiet. "Are Grandpa and Grandma mad at me?" That question hit harder than anything else had. Not the CPS reports, not the hospital photos, not even seeing my father shake in that courtroom hallway. Because after everything they'd done, my daughter still thought their anger was her responsibility. I swallowed hard. "No, sweetheart, none of this is your fault." She looked out the window. Kids don't always cry when they're hurt the deepest. Sometimes they just go quiet. Inside the building, the social worker greeted us with the same careful smile she always used. "Morning, Lily." "Morning." My parents were already there. My father stood near the vending machine, wearing a flannel shirt tucked into jeans, like he was trying to dress normal enough to erase what happened. My mother looked older. Not older like gray hair. Older like guilt. The second Lily saw them, her hand tightened around mine. My father noticed, and for the first time in my entire life, I watched Ray Ingram look ashamed. Not angry, not defensive, ashamed. The social worker led everyone into a small room with toys stacked against one wall and a plastic table in the center. My father pulled out a coloring book from a Walmart bag. "Horses," he said, awkwardly. "You used to like horses." Lily looked at it for a second before sitting down quietly. For almost 2 hours, nobody talked much. Just crayons moving across paper, small conversation. School, art class, a spelling test. Normal things. But underneath every word sat the thing nobody wanted to say out loud. You threw an 8-year-old child into a thunderstorm. My father never once raised his voice. Not once. And honestly, that scared me more than yelling ever did, because it meant he finally understood he no longer had power here. When the visit ended, Lily stood up first. My mother reached toward her carefully, like someone approaching a wounded animal. "Can I have a hug?" Lily froze. The room got real quiet. Then, slowly, my daughter stepped forward and gave her the smallest hug I've ever seen in my life. Just enough to be polite, not enough to trust. My mother started crying immediately. The ugly kind of crying people do when consequences finally catch up to them. On the drive home, Lily stared out the window most of the way. Then, suddenly, she asked, "Mommy?" "Yeah, baby? Am I really an Ingram?" I nearly had to pull over at the red light, because I knew exactly where that question came from. All those months hearing, "Real Ingrams don't lie. Real Ingrams don't act like that. Real Ingrams belong here." An 8-year-old little girl had started wondering if love in a family had to be earned. I reached back and grabbed her hand at the red light. I said, "You listen to me real careful. You do not have to earn your place in this world. You never did." Her eyes filled with tears instantly, and mine did too. That night, after dinner, I found her sitting at the kitchen table drawing again. For months, her drawings had been full of lonely little stick figures standing outside the family, tiny people with no faces, no smiles, no hands reaching back toward them. But this drawing was different. It was a small apartment, purple curtains, a couch, a little kitchen table, and 2 people standing side by side, holding hands. Me and her. At the top, she wrote, "Our home." I had to walk into the bathroom after that because I didn't want to see me break down. People think survival looks loud. It doesn't. Sometimes survival looks like an 8-year-old little girl finally drawing herself inside the house. A few weeks later, the court hearing finalized everything. Full custody awarded to me permanently. Supervised visitation only. Mandatory counseling recommendations for the family. My father barely spoke during the hearing, but right before we left, he stopped me outside the courtroom. "Darcy?" I turned around slowly. His hands were shaking again. "I thought I was doing the right thing." I looked at him for a long time. "You thought obedience mattered more than safety." He looked down at the floor, and for once, Ray Ingram had absolutely nothing to say. Summer came slowly after that. Lily started laughing more, sleeping through the night again. She made 2 friends on base housing and started riding bikes outside until the streetlights came on. One evening, I heard her laughing from the playground outside our apartment window and just stood there listening. Because for a while, I honestly thought I might never hear that sound again. Kids are resilient, but they shouldn't have to be. That's the part nobody talks about enough. One night near the end of July, there was another thunderstorm. Heavy rain, loud thunder, wind rattling the windows. I found Lily sitting awake in bed, clutching her blanket. "You okay?" She nodded. Then thunder cracked again, and she whispered, "Can you stay till I fall asleep?" So I climbed into bed beside her. She curled against my side while rain hit the windows. After a while, she asked quietly, "You came back for me, right?" I felt my throat tighten instantly. Always. Even if Grandpa said bad things? Even then. Even if people lie? Even then. She was quiet for a minute. Then she looked up at me and whispered the sentence that healed some. Full custody awarded to me permanently. Supervised visitation only. Mandatory counseling recommendations for the family. My father barely spoke during the hearing, but right before we left, he stopped me outside the courtroom. "Darcy?" I turned around slowly. His hands were shaking again. "I thought I was doing the right thing." I looked at him for a long time. "You thought obedience mattered more than safety." He looked down at the floor, and for once, Ray Ingram had absolutely nothing to say. Summer came slowly after that. Lily started laughing more, sleeping through the night again. She made 2 friends on base housing and started riding bikes outside until the streetlights came on. One evening, I heard her laughing from the playground outside our apartment window and just stood there listening. Because for a while, I honestly thought I might never hear that sound again. Kids are resilient, but they shouldn't have to be. That's the part nobody talks about enough. One night near the end of July, there was another thunderstorm. Heavy rain, loud thunder, wind rattling the windows. I found Lily sitting awake in bed, clutching her blanket. "You okay?" She nodded. Then thunder cracked again, and she whispered, "Can you stay till I fall asleep?" So I climbed into bed beside her. She curled against my side while rain hit the windows. After a while, she asked quietly, "You came back for me, right?" I felt my throat tighten instantly. Always. Even if Grandpa said bad things? Even then. Even if people lie? Even then. She was quiet for a minute. Then she looked up at me and whispered the sentence that healed something inside my chest I didn't even know was broken. "I knew you would." And man, that about destroyed me. Because through everything, the storm, the lies, the hospital, the fear, my little girl still believed her mom would come. I kissed the top of her head while thunder rolled outside, and for the first time in a very long time, neither of us were afraid of the storm anymore. A year later, Lily entered an art contest at school. Theme was, "What does family mean to you?" I'll never forget that drawing as long as I live. It wasn't fancy, just crayons and markers, a little apartment under a giant night sky, rain outside the windows. Inside, a mother and daughter sitting on the couch together under a blanket. Safe, warm, home. At the bottom, she wrote, "Family means the people who protect you." She won first place. I framed it the same day. It still hangs in our living room right now, and every single time I look at it, I remember something that took me way too long to learn. Being family means nothing if you make a child feel unsafe. Blood does not excuse cruelty. Titles do not erase damage. And protecting your child is not cruelty, even when the people hurting them share your last name. That storm changed everything. It destroyed the version of my family I spent my whole life trying to protect. But it gave my daughter something better: peace, safety, a voice, and a mother who finally stopped confusing loyalty with love. That was the night I stopped being Ray Ingram's daughter and fully became Lily's mom. That's my story. One storm, one lie, one little girl in a drainpipe, and the moment a mother finally chose her child over everyone else. If this story hit your heart, share it with somebody who needs the reminder. Protecting your child is never overreacting. Never. And sometimes the strongest thing a parent can do is finally say, "No more."